We're killing two birds with one stone today. We've driven up to Nexon. I'm dropping the Hobbit off at the shops, and then we're going to go for a little drive in the countryside. So yeah, we've already driven from home, so there's going to be some footage. I'm filming this all backwards, you know, Ben's garage. We don't do anything straightforward. So yeah, we're going to go for a little bit of a drive and a chat. And today we're going to talk about history. Some of you might enjoy this little video. It's a little bit macabre, but the way I see it, we need to remember these things so that they don't happen again. You've probably heard that before, but yeah, we're going to have a little drive up to Nexon. So drop the Hobbit off at the shops. She's in the Brico at the moment, looking for an air brick or an air vent and seeing how much the double-walled flue is for the new cooker. Anyway, I'm going to drop her off at Super U. While she does the shopping, we're going to have a drive around the other side of Nexon, where there's a site of historic interest. It's not there anymore, but there's a memorial. We'll have a bit of a chat while we're on the way, en route. And yeah, some of you might enjoy it. I know a lot of you do sort of say, yeah, I enjoy the drive in the countryside and seeing what you got going on. But this part of France was obviously occupied during World War II. And some not very nice things occurred.
You may or may not have heard about the massacre of Oradour-sur-Glane, which occurred on the 10th of June 1944. 643 people were killed. Non-combatant men, women and children were massacred by the German Waffen-SS company as collective punishment for resistance activity in the area, including the kidnapping and subsequent execution of Waffen-SS Sturmbannführer Helmut Kampf, who was burned alive in front of an audience. The very same 2nd SS Panzer Division Das Reich, the day before, on the 9th of June 1944, had a roundup and summary execution of civilians in the French town of Toul, just 3 days before the D-Day landings. After a successful offensive by the French resistance group France Tireur on the 7th and 8th of June 1944, the arrival of the Das Reich troops forced the Marquis to flee the city of Toul in south-central France. On the 9th of June 1944, after arresting all men between the ages of 16 and 60, the Schutzstaffel and Sicherheitsdienst ordered 120 other prisoners to be hanged, of whom 99 were actually hanged from lampposts. In the days that followed, 149 men were sent to Dachau concentration camp, where 101 died. In total, the actions of the Wehrmacht, the Waffen-SS and the SD claimed the lives of 213 civilian residents. Oradour is 40 minutes northwest of us and Toul is about an hour southeast. I know Toul fairly well as my parents used to live in Corrèze and Toul was their nearest large town. France was one of the largest military powers to come under occupation as part of the Western Front in World War II. The Western Front was a military theatre of World War II, including Denmark, Norway, Luxembourg, Belgium, the Netherlands, the United Kingdom, France, Italy and Germany. The Western Front was marked by 2 phases of large-scale combat operations. The first phase saw the capitulation of the Netherlands, Belgium and France during May and June 1940 after their defeat in the Low Countries and the northern half of France, and continued into the air war between Germany and Britain that climaxed with the Battle of Britain. After capitulation, France was governed by Vichy France, headed by Marshal Philippe Pétain, from 1940 to 1942. While the Vichy regime was the nominal government of all France except for the Alsace-Lorraine, the Germans and Italians militarily occupied northern and southeastern France. France was not liberated until 1944, when the Allied invasion restored the French government.
So when it came to the French during World War II and occupied, Nazi-occupied France, you either became a collaborator or you joined the resistance, basically. Now it's a bit of a tricky one because you're occupied by a large force like Germany, and what do you do? For an easy life, you collaborate, because you don't know how long they're going to be here. Obviously the resistance saw it the other way. They wanted to fight. So when obviously France was liberated, collaborators were sort of called out big time. But the crafty bastards, quite a lot of the collaborators before the end knew what was coming, so they quickly joined the resistance, having been collaborators. And then when France was liberated, they was punishing the collaborators that they were collaborating with. Dirty bastards, really. But there you go. During the occupation of World War II, they brought out a law, the Nazis brought out a law stating that basically grassing up your neighbours. If you suspect your neighbour of being part of the resistance or anything like that, you would grass them up. This led to quite a lot of people being called out when they was doing nothing wrong. If there was a family feud that went back generations, the collaborators would call them out. The Gestapo, the SS or whoever would come and collect them, round them up and punish them. So quite often people were punished for family feuds, for disagreements, neighbourly disputes, that kind of thing. So people were pretty much living in fear. Not a good place to be.
And that brings us to our part of France. Within a stone's throw of each other, there were 3 concentration camps, which at the time were labelled as supervised residence centres. One in Saint-Paul-d'Azur, one in Saint-Germain-le-Bel, and the other in our closest town of Nexon. During the occupation, about 50 regrouping, surveillance, internment and work camps were created by the French administration in Limousin. That of Nexon in Haute-Vienne was one of the most important. They have since been forgotten, disappeared or erased from collective memory. In Limousin, the camps were not concentration or extermination camps like the Nazis built in Germany, Eastern Europe or even Alsace, but they did exist. Throughout the period of the occupation, they were used to repress opponents of the Vichy regime and then the victims of the Nazi occupiers. Among them, the Nexon internment camp in Haute-Vienne. Nothing remains of it today, just a commemorative plaque at the entrance of a suburban area which exactly covers the perimeter of the vanished camp. A camp for political prisoners, the Nexon Supervised Residence Centre was completed in the course of 1940 and operated until 1945. It was first intended to accommodate Spanish refugees. In November 1940, they began the internment of political prisoners. Located near the railway station, away from the town, it was made up of 17 barracks surrounded by barbed wire, overlooked by 4 watchtowers. It was made to accommodate up to 1,600 prisoners, political opponents, communists, trade unionists and Jews. In March 1941, a number of undesirables were transported to Port Vendres, from there to North Africa. Following the dissolution of the Gurs camp in November 1943, the internees of this camp were transferred to Nexon. Among them was the cartoonist Raoul Nobilos, who made it possible to know today for his artistic testimonies of the detention. In this first picture, he depicts that the guards had to wait several months for the uniform presented here. The French state, destitute, only provided them with simple armbands and leggings, generously granted by the Belgian army. They would use the very dated 1886 Legel rifle that the French infantry had used from 1886 through to World War I. This next picture is the special agents, nicknamed the Bugler. They were recruited among the local populations and were likely to have been informants. And this last picture is of the gendarmes, or Garde de Mobile de Réserve, were responsible for supervising the transfers. This was also an internment camp for foreign Jews. Foreign Jews arrested in the Limoges region by the French police and gendarmerie on the orders of the Vichy government were interred at Nexon. It was from there that they were transferred to the Drangey camp, then deported to the extermination camps Auschwitz, Birkenau and Treblinka. On August the 29th, 1942, 450 Jews, including 68 children from the Limoges region, were arrested and interned in Nexon. They were then delivered to the Germans and deported to Auschwitz. Elderly Jews evacuated from the Recevaudoux camp near Toulouse are transferred to the Nexon camp. Living conditions at Nexon camp were very difficult. A good number of internees suffered from lack of hygiene and malnutrition. On June 11th, 1944, the camp was attacked by resistance fighters led by Georges Guingouin. This operation allows the escape of 54 detainees, while the other prisoners are transferred by the militia to Limoges. The camp closed definitively in 1945. There are no remains of the camp. Just to think that this area would have been crawling with Nazi Germans. Yeah, I mean, if you do get a chance and you come to this part of France, it's well worth a visit going up to Oradour-sur-Glane. That is a quite eye-opening monument to what happened. Now we'll go back and find the Hobbit. For decades, the French government declined to apologise for the role of the French police in the roundup, or for other state complicity. Its argument was that Philippe Pétain dismantled the French Republic when he instituted a new French state during the war, and that the Republic had been re-established when the war is over. It was not for the Republic, therefore, to apologise for events that happened while it did not exist, and which had been carried out by a legitimate state which it did not recognise. Former President François Mitterrand, for example, maintained this position. The subject of the final solution was therefore ignored for decades. The narrative promoted by Charles de Gaulle, starting in 1944, that almost the entire French nation had been united in resisting the occupation, with the exception of a few dishonourable traitors, making it difficult to acknowledge the role of French civil servants, policemen and gendarmes in the final solution. In July 2017, President Emmanuel Macron denounced his country's role in the Holocaust and historical revisionism that denied France's responsibility for the 1942 roundup and subsequent deportation of 13,000 Jews. He states, "It was indeed France that organised this roundup," he said. French police collaborating with the Nazis. Not a single German took part, he added. Neither Chirac nor Hollande had specifically stated that the Vichy government in power during World War II actually represented the French state. Macron, on the other hand, made it clear that the government during the war was indeed the French state. He goes on to say, "It is convenient to see the Vichy regime as born of nothingness, return to nothingness. Yes, it's convenient, but it is false. We cannot build pride upon a lie." Macron did make a subtle reference to Chirac's 1995 apology when he added, "I say it again here, it was indeed France that organised the roundup, the deportation, and thus, for almost all, death." Can you imagine being locked up for having your own opinion? If your opinion isn't the one that the ruling government says, you're off to the concentration camp, or should I say supervised residential centre.
takes us back to freedom of speech, doesn't it, and all that kind of thing, and censorship, you know, it's not a very good thing, is it? Having a difference of opinion makes healthy debate. If you can't have healthy debate, it just becomes, get in the back, you. If you can't have a healthy debate, you know, what is the point? You know, you can't just, it's my way or the highway, because society just goes down the toilet, doesn't it? So yeah, I'm sorry that this video is going to be very dark and macabre. There's no other way of sugarcoating the occupation and the Holocaust and concentration camps and genocide, but that's a little bit of local history. If you want to see some more local history, which is on a brighter note, let me know in the comments below, and I'll see what I can do. Obviously Richard the Lionheart, it's a bit further back than World War II. I thought I'd just do this video, you know, because it's recent history, and if we don't learn from history, it'll happen again. Simple as that. You know, erasing history as well. Whether history's good or bad, it's been and gone. You need to learn from your mistakes. So yeah, I do hope you enjoyed this video, and it's not sent you into a wild spinning depression. Anyway, if you did, give us a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll catch you in the next video. Bye for now.